This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 207 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Thin Line Global Products and Audible.com.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer, Glenn, who is going to tell us who won the contest.
Yay! Last week we had a contest to see who would win Linda Tellington-Jones Dressage with Mind, Body, and Soul. And we posted a picture of Reese and Philip with their significant others in front of a statue of a buffalo. And we said we wanted to know where that was. And our first answer on Facebook came from a guy, Philip, and a guy from Canada who doesn't live far from you, actually.
Yeah, I know. It was very fast anyways.
I came in like 2 seconds.
It was
like, impressive.
And his name is Ken Hubert. And congratulations, Ken. The book is going to be heading out to you, and you're in Canada, so you should get it sometime next year.
Yay, Ken. Thanks for listening.
Glenn sends me stuff and it takes forever to get here. So.
Yeah,
I think that the Canadian authorities, they take it out of the box and take a week to look at it. And
they try it out for a while.
Yeah, they test it. They read the book, put it back in the box.
Is it something from you?
Now, so Ken did win, and it was at Buffalo Trace Distillery, which is, I assume, a place where you consumed a good quantity of bourbon.
Yeah, good Kentucky bourbon.
I think Philip consumed the most because both Meredith and I, Travis was driving, and Meredith and I were both like, oh, that's strong. So Philip kept getting shots, but we had a great time. And that was, growing up here, and as we all know, when you live in a place, you never do the tourist type thing, and so it was great. I've never been on the Bourbon Trail, and I had never been.
In that tour, some of the tours of the distilleries, they take you through the different ones, and the one part where the big tanks are where they make the mash, where bubbling and oozing and all of that. And that really is what makes moonshine. At that point, it's moonshine, right, and it's not refined. Did they let you taste the moonshine at that point?
Yeah, White Lightning.
Yeah, did you?
Buffalo Trace, they did. Yeah.
And?
Yes.
that burned all the way.
That'll knock you on your butt.
I think I had a sore throat when I came in, but I did not when I came out.
Cured yeast of a sore throat.
That will kill any allergies. That will kill any toxins. That'll kill anything, really.
Yeah,
it really kill a person. You drink enough, that's for sure.
Kill a person. But it was great fun, and we just had a great time with Philip and Meredith, and we love that they come for the Derby. So it was a lot of fun. We had a really good weekend, and it was just a good break for both Philip and I because we're hitting it hard. Philip, you have a show this weekend, right?
Yeah, we just shipped horses over and we're just warming them up today. So I had to drive fast back to the house to get on the show tonight, and really excited about showing two horses, one first level, one third level for our first show of the season. Should be great. We're supposed to have good weather, so it'll be good. It'll be good.
Sunshine. Yeah, good weather meaning it's not snowing.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty warm.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. But we put together a great show today for our listeners. Tell us, Reese, what's coming up?
So we have today we're going to do a 2-part series with Dr. Chris Newton from Rood & Riddle. He's an FEI vet. He's a partner at Rood & Riddle here in Lexington. He's also a very, very good eventing rider and a parent of a pony clubber. So I hope everyone will enjoy his 2-part series. We're going to start talking about common injuries to the dressage horses, and he is very thorough and does a fabulous job. And then we're going to hear a trainer tip from Marco Bernal. He is a Colombian international rider. He does both the small tour and the big tour. And Marco is a great person and a great trainer, and you will learn a lot from his tip. It was a listener question that we talked about. And we're also going to hear from Wendy Ying from the Driving Radio Show. She's going to talk about her journey down the dressage path, riding dressage. So it should be a really good show this week.
Well, before we get to our great interviews, first, I guess we have to talk a little bit about dressage news. What's new here, Reese?
Yeah, so today USCIF announced the dressage combinations to represent the U.S. at the CHIO at Aachen. And the Grand Prix riders are going to be Jan Ebling, Shelley Francis, Tina Cognac, and Stefan Peters. So we wish them all good luck, and maybe we can get one of those guys on to talk a little bit about how Aachen is going. And also for small tour, we have Shelley Francis and Caroline Rothman that are going to be doing the small tour. And Caroline is a good friend of the show, and we wish her well. And she is also going to represent riding Sagacious. She's going to represent the U.S. at the young adult Grand Prix level. So we wish them all great success, and we will get somebody on to talk about Aachen for sure.
So, Reese, when is Aachen?
Aachen is June 26th through the 30th. So a little bit of time leading up to Aachen, but I have never personally been to Aachen. Philip, have you?
No, I mean, it's on the to-do. I guess it's a bit of a bucket list. That's one of the biggest shows in the world. It's huge, and people say it's just a great experience. So I want to get there sometime. But unfortunately, the summers are so busy here that, how can we, make time to leave and go to Germany? So maybe one day we'll just ride there. I guess that's what we have to do.
I love it. I hear a next vacation with our spouses, Philip. I think that would work. Poor Travis would be the only one that would be very bored.
Yeah, he's very nice. So I don't think
I hear another
enjoy that as much as others.
Exactly, as Meredith and you and I would, but he would be a good sport. I'm sure he would find the beer tent.
That's a great guy. Yeah. Perfect.
Well, we look forward to hearing from them and wish them all well. And we will also get the Canadian list. We give our Canadian team members some love too once we hear who they announce.
Yeah. So perfect. That sounds good.
Well, we are going to start today's show after a commercial break from Thin Line Global with Wendy Ying from the Driving Radio Show. And she's going to talk a little bit about her horse show over the weekend in dressage.
Howdy everybody, Glenn here. We just finished a terrific series on leg protection that was brought to you by the good folks over at Thin Line Global. If you missed it, go to horsetipdaily.com and check out all 4 parts. They still have a fantastic coupon for Horse Radio Network listeners for 12% off your next order at thinlineglobal.com. Whether you buy their saddle pads, horse boots, or tack items, everything is 12% off with this coupon code. Just type radio in the coupon section at checkout at thinlineglobal.com.
Well, it is so exciting to have Wendy Ying from the Driving Show on the Horse Radio Network on this evening. Wendy, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
So you have to tell everybody why you're on the show this evening.
Okay, I'm on the show because, I guess it's to show that you don't have to be a serious competitor to be in dressage, because I have been riding one of my driving horses in dressage, or as the dressage folk likes to call him, my cart pony.
Oh, rude. That's not very nice.
No, but my neighbor on the Panhandle is a dressage trainer, and also has a covered arena, which I like because I'm a total diva and I don't like to ride outside. And so I started going to her for some riding lessons, some dressage lessons to improve my driving. And then I started, showing in dressage, and I really enjoy it. And so now that I've backed off a little bit on the driving showing, I started showing one of my best ones in dressage. And it's really challenging and it's fun. I think it's challenging intellectually and physically, and I really enjoy it.
And
so you went to a show? Yeah, recently? Yeah. Was that a first show in a while?
I started showing in like 2008, I guess, and I just did that a couple years, and then I really was focusing on driving my four-in-hand. And so this horse that I showed last weekend, I had not ridden him since 2009. Like, I'm saying not even sat on him in trail road. And, and then my friend lives down here, Jan Gilly. He's my neighbor. He was coming over to give one of my friends a dressage lesson, and I was like, oh, I want to have a dressage lesson. And that's when I realized I hadn't ridden this horse in so long, and I got on and I rode him, and it was fun. And my friend said, oh, I'll have a rated show. So I just loaded up and went. But it's been since 2009 that I've shown.
Well, that is great. And you did well. That is the word on the street.
Well, I was really happy with our performance. Considering especially he was in the lead of my forehand, so we don't really canter a lot. You do like gallop on marathon, of course, but in the lead he doesn't even pull weight, and we just work on. You just do walk and trot. You don't canter with the team in dressage, although in singles you do canter. But so he has completely different muscles for driving than dressage, and I was really happy with his performance because the canter work. I mean, I stink at canter anyways, but because I grew up fox hunting and show jumping, so I never even sat in the saddle before 2000.
Yeah, that's tricky.
So for both of us, the canter work was very challenging, but we scored in the low 60s in training and the high 60s in. Oh, sorry. We scored in the high 60s in training and the low 60s in first.
Oh, that's fantastic. And do you think that the dressage riding is going to help him in the driving when you put him back under harness?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, that's why I started taking some dressage lessons. First and foremost, it made me a much better horseman all around because you dressage people like obsess about everything. Like,
it's all about the details.
Yeah. It's detailed.
I would always just kind of wing it, and I didn't even know my horses weren't going straight. So if you don't even know what you're feeling, you can't fix that. And I thought that was really interesting, and it made my hands much better. And also, my transitions are much sharper driving now because I focus on that now because I knew that was important. But with driven dressage, it's our transitions are done at the nose of the leader. And if I'm driving a forehand, my leaders are like 20 feet out in front of me. So how accurate can you? I mean, Chester, yes, is very accurate. But
how accurate can you be? Well, some of them are really accurate, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what are the plans for the future? Was this a fluke horse show, or is there going to be more dressage shows in the future?
Oh, well, no, because I'm a total point chaser. And that's something that we don't have in the driving world. But I did, like I said, I grew up in the hunters. And my horse is, he's half Welsh cob. And so I am going to ride in some rated shows. And I'm going to do the Welsh Breed Award. And I'm going to try to qualify for the regional championships. And maybe even the national championships. I don't know. I love...
Oh, another competitive person. Once you get a taste for it, then you just want to do better and better and better. Right?
Well, it's here in Kentucky, so you'll have to come by. So I'm rooting for you.
Oh, thank you.
To make the regional, or the regionals are in Kentucky, or
the nationals.
Oh, the nationals.
Our regionals in Florida, and then the nationals is at the Kentucky Horse Park.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Thank you so much for coming on the Dressage Radio Show to talk about your dressage experience.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you both again soon.
Yes, and Wendy, will you keep us up to date on how your journey's going?
I will, yes. I'll keep giving you updates. Yeah, I mean, you know how I love to talk about my horses. It's like, I'm going to listen. I will definitely talk to you about it.
That sounds great.
And everyone, you can listen to Wendy every week on the driving radio show on the Horse Radio Network. So tune in and hear about her driving her dressage driving. I think that sounds exciting. And now we have a part 1 of a 2-part series with Dr. Chris Newton talking about the common injuries to the dressage horse and how we can treat and prevent some of these injuries. Well, it is my pleasure to have Dr. Chris Newton, an FEI vet, a partner at Riddle Equine Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky. Chris is an active event rider and a parent of a pony clubber, and he is also our vet here at Maple Crest Farm. So, Chris, it is so great, and thank you for taking your time this evening to come on the radio show.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be on and always happy to support the dressage community and clients such as yourself.
Great. Well, Chris, we were talking yesterday when you were here at the farm about some topics that we should talk about. And we decided this evening we should talk about some common injuries of a dressage horse, ways to deal with those injuries, and some exercises to rehabilitate horses back into work. So if we could just get started on what are some common injuries for dressage horses?
Well, certainly, as in any sport horse, the most common injuries generally are associated with the foot. The feet are a very complex structure which function not only as a support element, but they function to provide increased blood flow throughout the lower limb and as a shock absorbing mechanism for the entire apparatus. I think the old saying, no foot, no horse, is generally a very true saying for all sport horses, and that's often the first place that we want to look for really addressing long-term soundness and preventing injuries as we move up the limb. A good relationship between the farrier and the veterinarian and dealing with good terrain, good footing, and good environmental care of the horse along with nutrition are really going to point in the appropriate direction for care of the foot. Some of the common problems that we see with the foot is the old navicular issue, which we used to call everything that was sore in the back aspect of the horse's foot navicular disease, but we're now realizing over the last 8 years with the advent of the MRI that we have a significantly greater number of structures which are being injured in that caudal aspect of the foot. So it's not just a bony degenerative process, but lots of soft tissue structures. And this has really created quite a paradigm for veterinarians and for farriers, I think. It used to be that when horses presented with heel soreness or caudal foot soreness, we tended to treat the coffin joints, change the shoeing, proceed on, and if they didn't get better, we did a neurectomy. A few years ago, a study was done in which they took 100 horses who had chronic unsoundness associated with the caudal foot that had not returned to soundness, and they did x-rays, ultrasounds, bone scans of those horses, and none of those were diagnostic. They then did MRIs, and they found that 70% of those horses had injuries to the tendon, the deep digital flexor tendon, as it coursed down through the back of the foot. And that presents a real paradigm because it's basically a bowed tendon, which is in the foot. And we all know what a bowed tendon in the lower leg looks like. We all fear that injury to a certain degree. It's not as common in the dressage horse in front. It certainly happens a bit behind in the dressage horse, but that injury in the front foot in the dressage horse is not terribly uncommon at all, and something that we should be very mindful of. And when we do see hind foot or hind back heel injuries, I think we should always be a little bit cautious about how aggressive we are at pushing them forward quickly. So from there, we would move up the leg to pastern, and we see a lot of pastern arthritis in specifically older dressage horses. And one of the wonderful things about the dressage world is that rarely do we see horses peaking as we do in the thoroughbred industry or the racing industry at the age of 3 or 4, but we really see them peaking at the age of 10 to 17. So we're dealing with a lot of horses that are into their early 20s and still very, very competitive. And so low-grade, chronic, persistent arthritis of those lower joints of the leg, such as low ring bone or coffin joint arthritis, high ring bone, which is pastern joint arthritis, or fetlock arthritis, become very common. And the fetlock arthritis I generally see in the dressage horse in the hind fetlocks. It's very common in the hind fetlocks. The pastern joint arthritis and the coffin joint arthritis we often see in the front legs. This is an area where you'll begin to see the horse's gaits diminish in its energy, diminish in its dynamic movement, and then seeing low head bobbings or inconsistencies or lack of rhythm and cadence to the gait as the horses begin to appear having low-grade lamenesses. We move up the legs from there, and we run into the suspensory ligaments. Everybody kind of fears the word suspensory ligament injury because they've seen hind suspensories, which can be really chronic and nagging injuries. We the hock in the horse is very similar to the heel in the human being. And those suspensory injuries are a little bit like a plantar fasciitis, where they tend to be inflammatory, low grade, and have a persistent pain. And horses in the dressage world are really asked to shift their weight from that front end to their hindquarters. The horse naturally carries about 60% of its weight on the front end, but when you begin to look at horses beyond second level dressage, we begin to see horses that are carrying more like 60% of their weight on their hindquarters. And that puts atypical stresses on these supportive structures behind. The other thing we see with age is associated with Cushing's disease or pituitary adenomas, which is really an age-associated disease in the horse. We begin to see high levels of corticosteroid or cortisol, endogenous cortisol secretion, and that can have a significant effect on healing and regeneration of the suspensory ligaments. So the suspensory ligaments are an area that we should pay really a lot of attention to in the horse, and specifically in the dressage horse, those hind suspensories at their attachments by the hock and then down by the fetlocks. As we move up the legs from there, in the forelimbs, we rarely see diseases associated with the knees and the shoulders and the elbows in the dressage horse, but we commonly see pathology associated with the distal hock joints and with the stifle joints in the dressage horse. Again, as we shift that weight to the back end, we begin to see a lot of degenerative joint disease or osteoarthritis of these high range of motion joints in the hindquarters, specifically the medial joint of the stifle, which is a very high range of motion joint and a very intense load-bearing joint. And in humans, we see lots of high-level athletic humans who begin to have knee dysfunction at around the age of 30 or 40, and then at the age of 60, they're beginning to have total knee replacements or at least partial knee replacements. We haven't advanced in the horse to the age of joint replacements, but we want to really focus on keeping that stifle joint very healthy. And a lot of what's important to keeping those hind joints healthy is, number one, keeping consistent muscular strength. We want the quadricep muscles to provide strong stability to the stifle joint so that it doesn't enter into excessive load bearing or extreme ranges of load and strength bearing without having the support to hold the joint in place. And we want to make sure that whatever low-grade inflammation is occurring in those joints, we're able to really diminish very quickly. Cartilage, which lines these joints, or joint cartilage, which lines these joints and provides for the smooth flow and the smooth function of these joints, is not regenerated with age. And that cartilage doesn't receive its nutrition from blood vessels that run through the bones. It actually receives its nutrition from the fluid, which is produced by the capsules which encapsulate these joints. If joints begin to have low grades of inflammation, the cells in the joint capsule stop producing the quality of joint fluid that's necessary to feed this cartilage, and then the cartilage begins to atrophy or to shrink, and then it becomes more prone to being chipped off and ulcerating and being lost. And then as you reach sort of a dead-end point of losing enough cartilage where you have bone beginning to wear on bone, then you're going to have the presence of severe degenerative joint disease or severe osteoarthritis, and that begins to become very difficult to reverse. So we want to begin early in these dressage horses' lives with strengthening the appropriate structures, teaching those muscles how to contain the range of motion of the joint so that we don't have joints which are popping way out of place and having pressures and banging on that cartilage. And we also want to deal with the inflammation in the joint with products such as polysulfated glycosaminoglycans and hyaluronic acids, and potentially joint injections if necessary if you have a significant enough joint flare, so that you keep the quality of that joint fluid to a maximum and allow the feeding of the cartilage to be maximized and the health of that cartilage to be maintained. We oftentimes see young, high quality of dressage horses which move like Gumbies. They're incredibly elastic with unbelievably dynamic movement, but those horses are oftentimes the most prone at damaging the cartilage in the joints, because they will hyperextend their joints or hyperflex their joints when they're being put into motion. And so it's those young horses that we really want to focus on developing the periarticular muscle strength so that those joints are held well. And that can be done through kinesiostatic exercises such as hand movements, but it's also done through really proper dressage, which begins through engaging the entire top line, and then we can begin to focus on it. And as we move upward from those joints within the legs, we then see an entire axial skeleton, or a skeleton that starts at the first joint right behind the skull and ends at the last joint at the base, at the top of the tail head. And there's a tremendous number of joints which run within that skeleton. And those joints in the dressage horse are imperative to get the appropriate range of motion so that the muscles of the back and of the neck can engage up, and the horse is allowed to bring its shoulders up correctly and engage the muscles of the hind end. If the dressage horse is asked to flex through the pole and through the neck, but the back is ventriflexed, and meaning the spine is pushed downward towards its belly, then the joints of the hind limb are going to receive more impact on the front of the hind limb. The range of motion of the hind limb won't continue all the way through, so that the horse is landing correctly, and then you'll have excessive jarring going up through those joints. You'll have bruising of that cartilage on a continuous basis. You'll get low-grade joint inflammation. You'll have poor production of joint fluid, and then you'll accelerate the deterioration of those joints and shorten the long-term career of the horse. As I tell most of my clients, the most difficult component of the horse's anatomy to achieve appropriate fitness in is the nervous system, the brain and the nerves. The easiest thing to condition is the heart. And what we want to do is it takes us oftentimes 12, 13, 14, 15 years to get the brain and that nervous system functioning correctly, so that when we apply a subtle half halt, the horse does an appropriate passage or piaffe. But we want to have the horse's joints and limbs still functioning like they were 4-year-olds at the time that their nervous system has developed and become fit enough to sustain that level of training.
Glenn the Geek here. I get asked all the time by horse people, I want to build my own website. What service should I use? Well, there's only one service I recommend without hesitation, and that is squarespace.com. If you're looking to build a website for your horse farm, training business, boarding stable, or personal rider page, or maybe even a blog, and you want to do it yourself and end up with a professional-looking website, then there's only one place to go, Squarespace. Squarespace makes it easy with one of the simplest do-it-yourself interfaces available. You choose the theme you like, and then you just drag and drop the elements you want into that theme and start adding your pictures and content, and off you go. Plus, they give you 15 days to try it with no strings. They don't even ask for your credit card. If you sell things, they even have an e-commerce solution. Plus, your new website will integrate with Facebook and Twitter like a dream. I've been using this company for years and have recommended it to dozens of horse people. No matter what your skill level, Squarespace is for you. Give it a try for 15 days free by going to horseradionetwork.com and clicking on the Squarespace banner on the right side of the page. horseradionetwork.com, click on the Squarespace banner on the right side of the page.
Well, I hope everybody enjoys this evening's trainer tip from Marco Bernal, international dressage rider from Colombia. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce Marco Bernal from a team rider from Colombia, and he also just rode in the Nations Cup. And I'm so glad that, Marco, you were able to come on this evening to answer our listener question. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So, Marco, to start our interview, Glenn's going to read the listener question for us so everybody knows the trainer tip of the week.
Very good.
Okay, Claire sent this one in, Marco, and she said, loving the show, Reese and Philip, I wondered if you could share your favorite exercises for teaching horses how to start collection at the second or third level stage in training.
Okay, I would say, obviously, according to the talent and the ability of the horse, but I would suggest, and that's the way I normally do, I start on the walk using some turn on the haunches to make sure the horse is free at the shoulders and he's going to be able to sit under and start to understand what is the idea. In the trot work, I normally go for the shoulder in, first the shoulder forward, then shoulder in, circle, and then once I have the horse in balance, I use the transition trot walk and back to the trot. It really helps the horses to get the strength and to learn how to collect. Now, on the canter, normally I start with the counter canter, and I use the counter canter on the green horses to help them to get the balance and start to work on the collection. Once the horses are, let's say, a little bit more familiar with the idea, then you can use some 10-meter circles, both directions, and then once the horse is balanced and really comfortable doing that, you can use some kind of working period, big one, to start to collect the horses. And the combination of the three of them, the three different gaits, it will help the horse to understand what we want.
Oh, I think those are great exercises, Marco. So can you take us back to the trot? So let's say I have a second level horse and he's pretty weak and I'm having trouble with, just introducing shoulder in or shoulder four. What are some things that we can use to help that horse get the strength for those exercises?
Okay, if we go one step back, we will use the circle, the 10-meter circle, and make sure the horse is really getting the flexion and the balance to be able to maintain the flexion and the balance on the shoulder in. Another exercise and a combination that really helps me a lot is once I have the shoulder in, let's say, steady and consistent on the horses, I start to use the rambers. It's a very, very good exercise for the horses to understand how to go through the whole body and stay collected.
Oh, that's a great one. And what about traverse? Do you use traverse at all kind of in this stage?
Yes, it is in between. Actually, when you start with the shoulder in, circle traverse, then shoulder in, circle rambers, all this combination gives the horse a great ability and flexibility to really move easier and, like I said, do it with a less amount of effort.
Oh, I think that's great. And so, Marco, tell us length of time. A lot of times our listeners say, okay, well, how long or how many repetitions of these exercises should I do? What are some tips for gauging how much we should do?
Okay, like I said, I have, and this is my own experience, I have some horses, they really give me a better feeling and sooner working or start to work the collection on the canter. Some of them on the trot. Is not really one specific order. Some horses I spend more time walking in the beginning and making sure the horse is taking the legs and is reacting quicker from behind. And then it's very difficult to say how long. It will depend. Every horse is different. Normally, I try to start walk, do the exercise on the walk, then I go and try to do the trot. Some horses, they prefer, and I see a big, let's say, they get it sooner and quicker when I go from the walk to the canter exercise, and then at the end I will do the trot. Once I have more impulsion and better forward tendency, then I can go back to the trot. But I would say, in general, I don't spend more than 15, 20 minutes doing those. Counting the warming up and then the cool off I mean, normally I don't ask and work on this type of exercise that extent.
That makes sense, and I think that's right. Exactly what you have to work on is always making sure that you are listening to what your horse has to say. Especially this is a hard time for horses as they have to learn a lot and carry a lot. So Marco, you did a great job talking about the canter, and you talked about counter canter for learning collection at second and third level. What are some counter canter figures or exercises that you do?
You can start with the simple one, which is the regular, coming out of the corner, take a big diagonal that the horse is really able to keep and maintain the balance, and then go the whole arena. Then you can go for some 20-meter circles and count a canter, then the serpentine through loops, and like I said, according the reaction and how quick the horses get it, then you can go for this exercise that I said is like you make a circle, almost no flexion. You keep sure that the shoulders are coming first, and then the horses will develop the capacity of carrying itself, and then you can use a smaller circle. That's like I said, depending how quick the horse and how strong the horse it is.
Oh, and I love that. And you also talked about the working pirouette, which I think a lot of people are nervous to start that, at that level. But I agree with you. I think that's one of those exercises that takes a really long time for a horse to develop. Can you talk
Correct.
a little bit more sort of working pirouette kind of on that general topic?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the working pirouette, and actually you don't go straight to the working pirouette. You try a few strides on the big circle, let's say, not the 20-meter circle, 15 or 18-meter circle. You start to make some strides and check how long your horse is able to keep the degree of collection that you are asking for, and then little by little you increase every time more and more, and at some point you're going to be able to have like a big circle on a nice, let's say, position for a pirouette, but you're not really asking for this degree of collection, but it will develop every time. The horse will recognize what you're asking for, and they will, let's say, feel more comfortable doing it, and obviously they develop the strength and the coordination to keep it for longer, and the more they learn, then you can ask for a little bit more. But like I said, it's a very slow process, and the most important thing, like you said before, is to be able to listen to the horse and recognize exactly the point when the horse is working too hard, to be able to keep the horse happy and motivated to do it again and again.
Well, I think that was super, Marco, and just right on target. That was great. I really appreciate you coming on this evening.
Very good. I'm very happy, and thank you for thinking about me and anytime.
And Marco, tell us if we were to look you up online, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
Marco Bernal Dressage International. That's my website, and you can go in www.marcobernaldressageinternational.com, and then you can have the information.
Great. Well, we can't wait to have you on another time, Marco. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that trainer tip, and that is from an email and a listener question. So please keep those coming. We love those questions, and we like to get helps give our trainers some things to talk about. So thanks very much on that. So Philip, good luck this weekend.
Thank you. I'm going to need at least a little bit of luck, if not a lot. So looking forward to it. And next week we will not be on, I guess, Reese. It's time for the Para show to take over for a week.
Yeah, so next week we will be off, and I have a horse show next week, so I will tell everybody all about it. It's our local horse show here in Lexington, so we will be able to give some good news and some good scores next time we're on the show for sure. So everyone, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website at dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
you can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Thinline Global Products and Audible.com. And don't forget to check out all the other great shows, just Wendy's driving show and all the other ones on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
And we do talk about dressage on the driving radio show, just saying.
I know.
Yeah,
Wendy's
we
found a
could-
new passion.
Oh, the only
for
difference
sure.
is the reins are a little longer and the aids are a little different. That's all.
And you're not on top. That's
yeah,
that's
yeah,
a big
see,
difference.
yeah, but that's what you have that big long whip for.
And you have
okay.
4 horses in front of you, not just one. I have enough
4,
trouble
yeah.
with one.
I have
4
enough
is
trouble
too
bending
much.
one horse.
You know, when you really do
Yeah.
think about that, you know, when you ride dressage, when you got 4 horses that all have to be going in unison doing those movements, I mean, that's something.
It's too much for me to think about. It's amazing.
Yeah,
And
I was never
and
gonna
by the
do
way,
that.
2 sets of reins in each hand. So
Oh my god.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my god.
No.
No. I'm struggling
everybody-
as it is.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back. And Philip and I will be back in 2 weeks. Enjoy next week's Para Show.